So far in this unit, we have looked at simulations and we have looked at sample surveys. Now we want to start looking at observational studies as well as experiments. So in this lesson, we will look at observational studies. So an observational study occurs when researchers observe what is going on in the world. For instance, researchers compared GPAs of students who studied music to students who did not study music at a local high school. The results were that the average of music students' GPAs was 0.68 points higher above the average of the non-music students. So, first of all, this is an observational study because researchers just observed. They collected data. They didn't do any sort of manipulation at all, and that's what an observational study is. My follow-up question to that is, does this show a cause and effect relationship? And the answer is absolutely not. So we can observe a relationship, but there's no way for us to know that one variable caused changes in the other variable. So there's no way to know that people who study music always have a higher GPA or why that occurred in the sample that I have. Quite often there's something called a lurking variable. And a lurking variable is a variable that is not being studied that affects each of the other variables, such as, do musicians have more supportive parents that help GPA? Or are smarter people just more inclined on average to play an instrument? So we'll talk about this when we get to experiments, but the only way to show cause and effect is through an experiment. And we will learn all about that in a little bit. But that is the only way that I can show a cause and effect relationship is through experimentation. Now there are two types of observational studies, and it all has to do on when you are looking at the data. Are you looking at the data moving forward, or are you looking at data that has already been recorded? A retrospective study is where subjects and you select the subjects and study their previous behaviors or actions. This is quite often used with medical problems. This group of people has cancer. Let's look back through their past and determine why did they get cancer, etc. Quite often we have those when looking for the origin or a cause of something. The problem with a retrospective study is that often there are unreliable memories, or maybe note-taking and record-keeping wasn't as great as it should have been. A prospective study is when I look at something moving forward. So I'm going to select my subjects and then I'm going to study their future behavior. This is a great approach because I can record the data as it happens so that I know that it's accurate, but it might take too long. It might be something that spans longer than my lifetime, and so maybe it would be easier for me to use a retrospective study. For instance, if I'm observing the lifespan of bottle-fed versus breastfed babies, the study is going to last past my lifetime because I'm already an adult and these babies, hopefully, will outlive me.